adding the sequence and also setting a column as ID. Not setting. So I'm going to get foreigner key property reference. We're going to refer to that main table right here as ID. So here I'm going to set a foreigner key property, and here I'm going to call the same thing. This is ID as well. Okay, this ID, I'm going to move it to the left. Same thing. So ID, now I can choose from, sorry. I'm going to referring to the table previously. So which table to referring to? So I'm going to referring to the part table ID. Okay. So this is what it is. And now the moment you referring to the right table, it will show up like this. And also I'm going to adding a column called expression, which is my processing time. Okay, my processing time. And processing time column has to be time unit in terms of minutes. All right, so we have a sequence and then we have processing time. What I do is I just go over to copy these table over from problem 2 and copy it over here, change this key to 0. Then I'm going to choose key 1. Go to job key 1, make a copy, go back to this table and make a copy as well. Okay, everybody see what I'm doing on here? All right, let's do the next one. Do a repetition. Go to sequence for job 2, make a copy over and change, make sure the key in ID is correct. And now we are on job number 3. Make sense, same thing. You can type it in if you're starting from scratch. Here, since I have a problem 2's result, I'm just going to copy and paste over. All right, last one. Job 4. Okay, so now I have all the 5 different tables combined into one. I can actually delete all of them. The moment you put it into the sequence table from the main table called table parts, now you can see that they link it to portion of that table corresponding to this ID key. Everybody see this? Okay, so you can see that if I have the ID actually lined up, and I only see part of the sequence and part of the processing time for that particular ID. So this is tied into the ID portion, and you can take a look yourself. So I have a lecture video actually done this already, and here I'm just showing you using homework assignment how this is done. And this is why I send out an email saying please finish all the video before you come into the class today. It will make much more sense if you already watched the video. Now I don't even need these table anymore. I'm just deleting Oh, am I deleting the wrong table? Oh, yeah. Deleting the 1, 2, 3, 4 table sequence, job type, and red part. Also, don't need it anymore. So only thing I need is the table of parts, which is the main table, and link it to the entire list. The reason using this later, later on, these type of things can be imported directly from Microsoft Excel or from the database table in your company. And all I have to do is set up the main table to do the same thing. Over here is to stay the same, since now I don't have an initial sequence for the red part. I'm just going to, and I'm going to start sending table. This is part 1. Okay. So again, reference table. I'm just going to table sequence. Okay. Same thing over here. I'm going to just referring to the table sequence table. And this part, I'm just going to using the other part, since I only have 2 different entity now. One for the red part, the other one for the other part. So here actually I can say other job. Okay, so just so you know, but other job, actually I have 4 different symbol right here. All right. Question for me so far. I'm going a little bit quick, but if you watch the video already, this is pretty much the same. Okay, this is pretty much the same. And the other thing is, all these arrow in processing time for each one of the machine, used to I referring to the table part processing time. Now that column is just deleted. They don't have anymore. Actually, they are in the table sequence processing time column. So all I have to do is select all those. I'm just going to change table sequence processing time. Okay, that's it. Okay, so we just have to referring to them. There's several things I have to check. First, last time we're using a state variable, model entity state variable. I hate this name. Let's just call it job type. Okay, every time trying to search them disappear. So model entity job type is representing the type of a job in the system. What I'm trying to decide is the job type of all these jobs. 0 for red job, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the other jobs. Is similar to the ID number we have. So here we have assignment and the incoming. What do I do is I'm going to set the job type equals to table parts ID. Okay. Same thing. I'm going to set this to table parts ID number. So set it, instead of set it to 2, 3, 4 or 4, 5 or 1, 2, 3, 4 explicitly, I'm just referring to the ID column in the table parts. Okay. Before we do that, I need to also change their picture. So here what I have is model entity dot picture. Okay. changing the picture for this. I'm going to be using what? Table parts, ID, what? -1. Correct? For the other parts, the ID equals to 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But their picture is supposed to be equals to 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's ID -1. Okay. Let's see if this runs. Okay, you can see that. I'm going to slow down a little bit. You see 4 different colors still showing up, and so on and so forth. We're done with the problem 3. Okay, less than 20 minutes. That's how you're supposed to have in your homework. So problem 3, 20 minutes is done. Giving you 3 minutes of question, if you have any. Okay. If not, we're going to move on to part 4. And the part 4, I'm going to change this. The part 4 I'm going to collect statistics. Okay. I'm going to using some user-defined tally statistic and state variable statistics. I'm going to calculate the so-called time in the system. Time in the system for each type of a part, including the red part and 4 type of other parts. So, and also now we're going to define elements using 5 tally statistic. Okay, the tally statistic, what I have, let me just give me a sec. The tally statistic we have is, first, I'm going to call the first one tally statistic red parts time in the system, and the second one is tally statistic for job 1, job 2, oops, sorry, job 2, and for job 3, and for job 4. So how do we collect tally statistic? One way to collect it is collect it in the end, time in the system. We probably know that from homework 1, at the input node of the sink, we can using tally statistics. On entering or on exit, doesn't matter. I'm going to do it on entering here. So I'm going to add. Okay. I'm going to add a tally statistic. But the problem I have right now is I have 5 different job type coming into this node. And which tally I supposed to use. Okay, so here, instead of using entity entering condition, I'm going to using customer condition. What is the customer condition is? Actually, I can say table parts ID equals to 0. Okay. Table parts ID equals to 0. I'm going to collect tally red jobs. And the expression will be model entity, time in system. We've done this before, okay? Then I'm going to create another one. I'm going to show you 2 of those, and you can do the rest. And customer condition, one more time. Table parts. ID equals to 1, which is job number 1, okay? I'm going to collect tally for job 1. And expression will be model entity, time in system. Everybody okay? So you need to fill for 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them right here. So you can separate them to collect each one of those. Also, I want to collect number of parts of each type in the system. In order to do that, I need to have a state variable, actually integer. I'm going to call WIP, actually. The WIP stands for usually work in progress, which means how many parts in your system. Or you can call it number in the system. Just for short abbreviation sake, I call it WIP. And this WIP actually is, instead of as just a 1 number, I'm going to choose it as a vector of 5. So the first position I'm going to use is for call red job. Second, I'm going to use as job 1, and so on and so forth. So WIP is a state variable I'm using to collect all the so-called number in the system for different job type. And also, in the element section, I'm going to create 5 state variable statistics. Okay, state variable statistic. And I'm going to call them, first one, job 1 statistic. Yeah, job 2. Job 3. And job 4. Last one will be red job. How's that? And each one of them are referring to that state variable called supposedly WIP, correct? WIP. And which row it is? Second row. Same thing. WIP. The third row. WIP. The fourth row. And WIP. The fifth row. And this is the first row. Okay, so I'm monitoring the state variable WIP as a vector. Each one of them has 1 row. Okay. What I need is on the source, every time they come into the source, I need to count for accounting for them. So here I'm going to add one more, call WIP and which row it is. This is a red job. I'm going to do first row equals to WIP the first row plus 1. Okay. Question for me. Okay. This is for red job. Oh, sorry. This is for the other job. So I cannot just use that. This won't work. How do I do that? Because on the other type of other job resources, the the stuff I have is 2, 3, 4, 5 actually. So I need to, referring to the table parts, the ID plus 1. So if the table parts equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, actually I'm accessing 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of that. So I'm going to replace this 2, 1. Okay. Over here, I'm going to do the similar WIP, but this time it's a little bit easier. Okay. Row 1 equals to WIP first row plus 1. So incrementing each element's different elements in the table, okay, in the vector. So good. And also over here at the end, I also need to subtract them by 1. So here I'm going to using WIP. And what is the row? Actually, table parts .id plus 1. Save some space over here. WIP minus 1. So at the exit, I need to decrease these things by 1. Question for me? If not, I'm going to show you how to do the tally and the statistic all together. So this is one way to do that. And first is how to dealing with 5 different tally, using different tally elements, okay, for different job type. Second, I show you how to using the table assignment, to assign WIP according to the table parts ID. Okay. So these are kind of tedious work right here, but we can get it more organized in the way. So here what I want to do is have my collection actually come up here using the master table I have in the table parts. First I can add so-called a column called tally statistic. I'm going to call this guy tally statistic time in system. Okay. And it is referenced to a tally. So here I can actually referring to tally statistic right here as a column. I'm going to use this column as the reference to each one of the individual tally I'm using. And also I can adding a, okay, I'm going to adding a state properties as well. This is going to be a, we call it number in system column. And this referring to each one of those. Okay. And WIP. I'm going to type WIP for everybody. I'm going to copy all these. Oh, sorry. Everybody's WIP. Okay. Choosing all of them as a WIP, but I click on each one of the row. I say this is for 1, and that's for 2. Notice what I do is I click on the outside, but in that row a little bit. So I can type in which row I'm referring to. Okay. Click on a little bit outside here. So forth. You see what I'm doing? Okay. So even though number in system, they're all referring to WIP work in progress, but each one of them referring to a different rows in that vector, okay? Different rows in that vector. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3. Oh, have one mistake. 3, 4, and 5 instead of, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actually referring to that. Once these two columns got set up, I can actually go back to change all these. Instead of doing this really weird stuff, I can referring to what? Table number in system equals to table part number in system plus 1 right here. Everybody see what I'm doing? So I'm just referring to that column. That column automatically tells me which row it is. Same thing over here. So this option is much more generalized. Same thing over here. I can do table parts, number in system equals to table parts, number in system minus 1. Okay. And also, since I have my tally also listed in the column, I can refer those columns as well. But automatically they decide their, instead of doing 5 different conditional tally things, I'm going to delete these 2, adding on entering, all I have to do is table parts, tally statistic, time in the system, expression with model entity, time in system. See, this way actually my programming portion is much more simplified. You can do it either way, whichever you want, but this is a much more simplified version. By organizing my statistics as well as the state variables, okay, inside these main table called table parts. Okay. It is done. Let's take a look at the result. Okay, you can see that this is the first part is the state statistics for job 1, 2, 3, 4, and the red part. Okay, and also this is for tally statistic 1, 2, 3, 4, and the red part. For how many observations each one of a category they have, what is the average? Okay, so one thing I have not defined is, I need to stop this. Stop the simulation. I forgot to assign the tallies are all time. The moment I see my result, I see they don't have any unit specified. Let's do that one more time. Okay. Now you see the tally portion has units of minutes showing up. Question for me? If not, we got 5 more minutes. Show you one more thing. Here you see that this mass portion of the model and the data source category, data items, and actually these portions we're supposed to utilize them to help us to organize our output. So what I want to do is I want to organize the state variable as number in the system, and then data items which which job type they are, and tally as well. So why do I do that? And spending a few minutes with that, and then we call it good. So go back to the definition. When we define the tally statistics portion, okay, here what I have in the report category, and you see that now they have data source, category, and data items. These are the 3 things empty by default. So first I'm going to call this tally statistics. Okay, make a copy, and this category we're going to call it time in system, and the data item is supposed to be red job. Okay, the second one using the same thing, tally statistic, time in system, and job 1. Same thing. We're going to do one more time, couple more time. Tally statistics. Sorry. And time in system. Job 2. Job 3. Last one is tally statistic, time in system, job 4. Let me double check. I have all the spelling consistent. Okay. With that, I'm going to rerun my result. Now you can see that I kind of organized my output statistic, tally statistic, into 3 different layers. One is tally statistic, time in the system, and I have listed job 1, 2, 3, 4, and red job. So this way I cluster them into one section, just for time in the system. We can do the same for the state variable statistic as well, using the similar scheme. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave you to do that for the case. Okay? So any question for me so far?